excited about objections. What? Usually salespeople, I know me included, have been in the ballpark of, objections. I mean, my gosh, didn't I just sit in front of you and tell you about the most wonderful things in sliced bread? Really? You're going to object to buying? Yeah, they are. So what are we going to do? If we are in sales, we're going to get objections. So instead of dreading them, and come on, we all have it. We all have that one or two objections, maybe different parts of the cycle of your sale, that when you hear it, you like cringe. You're like, ooh. Because that's the stumper. That's the one that you can just, like, you never answer it. You've tried it different ways, and just forget it. If I hear that objection, I mean, right? We all have that objection. So I want you to think about, what is that objection right now that you're getting that is just, it's stumping you every time? And let's talk about how to really love objections. So in order to love an objection, we kind of have to understand what's the difference between an excuse and an objection. Because at the end of our sales cycle, or maybe at the end of, maybe you're just trying to set an appointment over the phone, an excuse is just that. It's an excuse. And once you get one excuse, you can try to answer that one. You're just going to get another one because they're just excuses. They're basically saying, I think I'm being nice to you by not telling you no. So I'm just going to tell you this excuse that sounds good and hope you buy it, and then I can leave. And most people think that's nicer than just saying, no, not interested. Kind of crazy, but that's how people are. So, and then an objection, though, you want to embrace an objection because that's telling you, hey, I'm interested. I want to do this. I know I need to do this. I need to buy from you. But if you could just help me understand, overcome this one little area that I see is possibly a stumbling block. But if you'll help me see past this area, I'm in. And so if you see objections that way and not lump them with excuses, it's a little bit easier to take. So kind of an example of this is, let's say, a guy's asking a girl out on a date. Now, an excuse would be like, oh, I got to wash my hair. Oh, I got to wait for my fingernail polish to dry. That's pretty much just an excuse. And if he tries to answer that one, she's just going to give him another excuse. An objection would be, oh, I would love to go out with you, but my dad's, asked me to, we're having family dinner. And that's kind of a, well, here's my concern. If you could just show me, maybe offer me another option, then, I'm in. So one of the very first steps to answering objections is to leave yourself some time for them. So often on our presentations, we're talking so much, we leave very little time for closing. And sometimes closing can take almost the exact amount of time that it took to do your presentation. And if your presentation's like an hour long, you are now over the buying line. So you need to be closing within 30, 40 minutes of getting started. So leave yourself some time to go through these objections or concerns. So then when you hear that objection, especially that objection that you're like, did they really say that? What I want you to do is take a deep breath in, blow it out, and welcome it. Because they're saying, I'm interested, just help me understand this. And what I need you to do is listen to what they're really saying. And the way that we do that is we kind of restate that objection back to them. So you're like, oh, that's great. So let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You would purchase from me if except you need this question answered. But if this question is answered, there's nothing else in your way that would keep you from purchasing. And that's called isolating the objection. We want to isolate the objection so that we know what's the real objection, because I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, buyers are liars. And they're not really probably telling you the right objection the first time, and maybe not even the second time. It's usually about the third time when they will finally tell you why they're really not buying. And so every time they give you an objection, don't dive in and answer it. I know I'm guilty. I always want to just, I know the answer to that one, and I just want to dive right in and answer it. But if that's not the real objection, then now you've answered the wrong one. And if you start trying to answer too many objections, You're just going to get a sparring match. They're going to feel like they're fighting, and they're just going to want to leave. So let me make sure I understand this. So if this, if that wasn't a problem at all, we were able to answer that. Is there any other reason that would, keep you from working with us? Isolate that objection, and then once you've really narrowed it down, then my favorite way to answer an objection is through feel, felt, found. Now, there's a lot of other ways to do that, but I just love feel, felt, found. Now, this was taught ad nauseum probably in the 80s and 90s, and most people recognized it. They're like, oh, yeah, Bob, I know how you feel. I felt the same way, and then I found. Yeah, no, people see right through that. But the psychology of feel, felt, found still works. You just have to word it a little bit differently. So you would say, once you found the right objection, you can say, I understand what you're saying. In fact, you remind me of Bob. Bob over at Allstate, he was saying the exact same thing the other day. He was saying, oh, yeah, I would work with you, except I just got to do this. But then what Bob, as he kept on talking, he said, but you know what? When I think about it, that really wouldn't even keep me back because I need this. Like, you have answered a need for me and I'm in. Where do I sign? And that's what Bob said. That makes sense? So how that sounds in the feel, felt, found is, I know how you feel. Bob, you remind me of Bob. So Bob understands how you feel. He felt the same way. We're telling the story. And it kind of helps to use, another voice. So they're like, oh, Bob was really saying this. And you're explaining how Bob was feeling what they were feeling. Because people like to be like, okay, someone else understands. I don't want to make a mistake. Someone else didn't want to make a mistake. But here's what they found. And then you explain what Bob figured out and why he went ahead and worked with you. And often that helps your prospect go through their mind of, okay, well, I could see that this way, and yeah, I don't want to do that, yeah. And so they're putting themselves in Bob's shoes when you're describing what Bob found and why he worked with them. And then after you do your feel, felt, found, you close again. So the steps to answering objections is, first of all, welcome them. Know the difference between an excuse and an objection. Leave yourself time at the end of your presentation to work through objections or concerns with your prospect. And then isolate that objection. Make sure you're answering the right objection, not all the objections. Use your feel, felt, found, just kind of use a little bit different wording and close again. And you follow that system, you're going to close more sales.